Hey, this is Heather Christie, and I just wanted to go live on this show to share with you a book that I just read that has turned out to be one of my favorite books I've ever read. The book is this. It's Limitless by Jim Quick. I don't know if you've read this yet. If you've read it, if you love it, leave a comment here. But I thought I would share just some of my top takeaways from having read this book. It is, first of all, a culmination, I think, of some of the best materials that I've been studying for quite a long time. But it gave me some new insights and some new ways of looking at things that, of course, you can only learn from an author who sees it in his own way. So Jim actually, I thought, was masterful in the way that he put this material together. And his focus is really on helping people become limitless, which is tap into the power of your brain. So he shared some insights with us about the power of your brain and took it to a level that was new for me, and it was really exciting. So first and foremost, I loved the opening story. And so I just would encourage you, even if you get the sample on Kindle, just to see if it's for you, read that first chapter. I haven't even talked to Jim. I'm not promoting this. I'm not an affiliate. It's literally just that good. But read that first chapter and read his story. It is just an amazing story about the power of determination, and how he got his start on really finding his purpose, which he lives to this day in and day out. So anyway, early on in the book, he goes into some discussion about your reticular activating system. Now, the RAS for short is a part of your brain that actually essentially acts like a filter for your brain. And I've talked about this on past podcasts before. You may remember my 134 dots. In any event, the concept is that this RAS is a part of our brain that actually acts as a filter. We have so much data and information coming to us through all of our senses, about 11 million bits of information per second. And yet our conscious mind can only handle a very finite amount. And I've heard anywhere from, Jim says, 50 bits of information per second. I've heard 134. But what we do know is it's a very finite amount of information that we can actually take in consciously. So just think about this. We are inundated with information. Well, how do you choose what information your conscious mind actually acknowledges? And the answer is you do this through that filter called your RAS. And the reality is you can program that RAS of yours. You can do it intentionally and you can do it consciously. But most people don't do that. What they do is they do it unintentionally or unconsciously. And they do that by asking their dominant question. This is what I really took from this section of the book that I thought was so cool. So what is your most dominant question? Well, we go through life with questions in our mind, but usually we're asking the same question over and over and over and over, and it's not always the most powerful question. So depending on your behavioral style, if you haven't gotten intentional about the question you're asking, there's a good chance that you might be asking something like, how do I get people to like me? Or why don't people like me? If it's phrased in the negative, it's even worse, right? Jim Quick used to ask himself the question, how can I make myself invisible? I think it was. If you're somebody who's highly analytical, you might be asking yourself the question, what if I get it wrong? If you're someone who's got a really dominant and assertive personality, you might be asking yourself the question, how can I fix this, as your dominant question, which means you're always looking for a problem, right? Problem to solve. So whatever it is for you, I wonder, are you aware of your dominant question? And it might take a little while for you to figure out what it is if you haven't already consciously created it. But the reality is your dominant question is what's programming that RAS of yours, your reticular activating system, to filter the 11 million bits of information per second that are coming at you and saying, only give me those few bits of information that are relevant to answering my dominant question. So I thought that was a really cool way of looking at it. And he gave a couple of examples of some dominant questions you might consider adopting, or sharing a dominant question that he adopted that really was the genesis of this book. The question he asked himself was, how does my mind work so I can work my mind? And he asked himself that again and again, day in and day out, all day, so that he could find the information that he wanted to have so that he could make an impact, not just for himself, but for everyone else. He talked about a conversation he had with Will Smith when he was working with him. And he shared this great story about Will Smith and the kinds of things that he would do for his other castmates. Will Smith realized that one of the dominant questions he asks himself is, how can I make this moment even more magical? What a cool question that is to have in the back of your mind all the time. I came up with one that from reading this book, and I don't know if it was suggested in there or if it was just my own, but I found it in the notes in my pages, is how can I make this day count? And when I think about that question and repeating that question throughout the day, it's really about making sure that I'm not just going through my rote routine, but that I'm actually really looking for how I make this day count. How can I be of greater service? How can I learn more? How can I be more, right? So what is your dominant question? What could your dominant question be? What would be the kind of question that you want to ask to train that filter of yours called your RAS to find the information that's actually pertinent and valuable to you? So anyway, though I want to say too, by the way, chapter 14 is a chapter on speed reading. And I was really tempted to move forward and read chapter 14 first and then go back. And then I thought, well, there's probably a reason he put it towards the end of the book. So I'm just going to, instead of trying to control things, I'm going to go with the program, read the book just as it is. Well, as it turns out, I could have gone to chapter 14 and read that first, and it would have been maybe a faster process of reading through this book and every other book to come, by the way. So you certainly can do that. If you get this book and you're tempted to go forward and read chapter 14, go do it. But I'll tell you, from that speed reading test and just written, I didn't watch his videos, I didn't do anything else, but just reading about his technique for speed reading, I got a 61% increase the very first time I tried it. Like, that's a really big deal. So productivity is definitely something that I gained in a number of different ways from different aspects of this book as well. So, okay, let's just bring this back to the practical. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, or maybe you're listening to me through your favorite podcast app, but generally my audience is executives, professionals, entrepreneurs who are looking to grow, who are looking to go to the next level, to evolve. And I would say that this Limitless book is one for me that made a tremendous impact. And I highly, highly recommend not only that you get this book, but that maybe you consider doing like a book club within your office, or I know we're mostly remote these days, but do a virtual one. I actually, you know what, part of what you commit to, he actually makes you sign a commitment statement in here early on about how much you're going to read until you get to the end of the book. And one of the commitments you make is to teach it to others. So I actually bought this book for a number of people, but I bought it for my 16-year-old cousin. So she's just getting ready to take her SATs this year and apply for colleges. And she's convinced that she's a bad test taker. You know, if you listen to her, she's horrible at taking tests. So I started with her and I had her read it with me. And so we text each other back and forth every single day talking about, okay, what did you get? What are you going to do with what you got? So whether it's working with some of your team at work, or even if it's a family member, somebody who you know could really use a breakthrough in really just unlimiting themselves in their thinking and their beliefs and their actions and in their results. Really powerful. A big thank you to you, Jim, for bringing this book to us and taking your knowledge and putting it down in a way that again, I just think is done so incredibly well. So I hope you like it. Share your thoughts or feedback. If you haven't read it, please go pick it up. Have a great day.